And this is the Citadel Gray Line. Welcome in. I am John Rawl, and we are here to talk about the Citadel's 27-6 setback last weekend as the Dogs went to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. And unfortunately, from a botch punt to more, it was not exactly the kind of game that Bulldog fans were hoping for, but it's a game, and that's exciting right there, the fact that the Citadel was able to get up and have a game going on because, frankly, this season has been a season that we weren't sure we're going to have any games, so we're excited about that. I am John Rawl, not to be confused with Jeff Hartsell. Jeff is on with us with the Charleston Post and Courier, and today we have a very special guest co-host from the Citadel class of 1997, a former Bulldog team co-captain and currently an actor. Derek Thomas is going to be joining us from Rhode Island. And there's a certain college football team that plays in Rhode Island that does their best to look like the Citadel. We're going to have to see if Derek can help us change that. But we're here. Again, we'll have on Derek in just a second. But, Jeff, let me welcome you in and have you discuss what happened. You were able to go to Tampa, Florida for the game this past weekend, and I want to get your thoughts and more on the Citadel's 27-6 setback to the Bulls of USF.
Well, I tell you, when they said there was no fans allowed, they weren't kidding. There was no one in the stands at 65,000-seat Raymond James Stadium, which is a beautiful stadium, home of the Tampa Bay Bucks and their new quarterback, Tom Brady. The stadium has all the bells and whistles, the two huge video boards on each side of the stadium, the ribbon boards that go around, the Wall of Fame with Mike Allstott and who else played for the Bucks? Derek Brooks,
Warren Sapp,
all those big names. John Gruden, of course, and then it rained for most of the day before the game, and I think some during the game as well. So it was a wet turf, and USF did their best to make it a big debut for Jeff Scott, but with no fans there, it was definitely a different experience.
Different experience, and we're here to break it all down with the Citadel's beat writer, Jeff Hartsell. If you have a question or comment about Bulldog football, or you've got something you want to ask former co-captain Derek Thomas, who's standing by in the shadows, feel free to pass those along because we're here for y'all here on the Citadel Gray Line. We want to let you know that Citadel Gray Line is packaged by IPS Packaging and Automation, and we've got a very special knob knowledge coming our way that you don't want to miss out, and that's courtesy of BigRedPalmetto.store. We'll have that question, and it goes way back in the days of Citadel football. A question very timely here as the Citadel tries to bounce back from this loss to Jeff Scott and USF to take on Jeff's old employer and his alma mater, the Clemson Tigers, which just happened to be the number one team in the country, and the Citadel and the Tigers getting together this Saturday. We actually have some audio and video as well, I should say, from Brent Thompson, head football coach. Jeff, you asked him a very important question this week at the press conference, virtual press conference, and we'll share a portion of that response from Coach Brent Thompson. We have all that right here, and if you want to question us or have a comment, feel free to chime in right there on our Facebook feed. And if you want to call us, you're certainly welcome to do that. We'll share that phone number in a second. If you have a question that you might want to text or call, we certainly welcome that. But Jeff, just real quick to put it all up, I know you've kind of set the scene. You've tried to escape talking about the actual game.
Well,
what say you?
Here's my opinion. If
Okay.
the Citadel had been at full strength with all their players, and if they hadn't had the punt folly, they would have taken South Florida into the fourth quarter, I think. And they almost did that anyway. South Florida had superior team speed and superior depth, no question about it. But I think if the Citadel had been at full strength, they were missing 11 players who have opted out and a 12th player who was inactive for the game. And most of those guys are from the backfield, right? So in my opinion, Derek's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, B-back is the second most important position on offense aside from quarterback in the triple option. You got to have reliable and at times explosive plays from the B-back. And the Citadel started a redshirt freshman who up until this fall was a linebacker at B-back. Mm-hmm. So not a formula for success. They were also missing some starting slot backs. So really young in the backfield aside from Brandon Rainey, and that really showed up, I thought, against South Florida.
And Jeff, right on cue, you and we're halfway decent looking guys, Jeff, I think, but we really needed to spice things up here. And Derek Thomas, he's right there. You see him. Beautiful actor, beautiful Citadel graduate, and a beautiful former team captain, a guy that actually suited up and played against the USF Bulls back in his playing days. And he's on with us courtesy of the Rhode Island Rams, letting them borrow him for a little while, but he's a Citadel Bulldog through and through. Hey, Derek, welcome into the Citadel Gray Line.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
All right, you heard Jeff call you out there. You got the chance to see this game, so Derek's your expert analysis of what happened this past weekend.
My expert analysis, I would say that the Bulldogs are still the Bulldogs. You know, I mean, that tenacity, that underdog spirit, we bring it in every game. I mean, that's just how we are. You know, that's what we eat, that's how we sleep, and that's how we play. I know when I was around, I was playing under Coach Charlie Taft as well as Coach Don Powers. The one thing that they would always preach is we can't give the game away. And giving the game away tends to always come down to turnovers and just missed assignments. Mm-hmm. I usually always watch those big games, those FCS games, those FBS games, just to see how long we hold the ball and who wins the turnover battle. I say 99 times out of 100, it always comes down to that turnover battle. So that's what happened. And like Jeff was saying, you know, if we were up to speed, if we had all our guys, it could have been a different game, minus the missed plays.
Yeah, you look at the Citadel's first drive. They picked up 2 first downs and 30-something yards. You remember their first drive against Alabama? They ran 12 plays. They only gained 37 yards, but they run almost 8 minutes off the clock before Alabama touched the ball.
Yeah,
and they could have been on their way to doing that again against South Florida, but the first carry for the new fullback, he fumbled and gave the ball to South Florida, and that was kind of the story of the game, as you said, turnovers and then the punt folly. And you really feel bad for Matt Campbell. He is an All-America talent. He could be kicking in the league next year. He's very good, and he had a bad moment on national TV against South Florida at a bad time. And the snap wasn't perfect, but every punter in America has to make that catch.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing about it is they had a delay penalty before that pushed Matt back into the end zone and set up that whole folly. So that was a turning point in the game, one from which they did not recover. And it was 20-6 in the fourth quarter, which is not out of hand until South Florida managed that last touchdown. So again, at full strength and without that punting folly, I think it's a close game until late.
Yeah, really is. Again, you know, mistake-free football. You know, it's almost impossible to play a game without a mistake. You know what I mean? But you know, if you're gonna, you know, slay Goliath, so to speak, you got to come with all your guns, and you got to make sure that they're shooting. So yeah, our special teams is another thing that has been like an amazing core part of our football team. Like over the last few years, it's just been really great to see like really powerful, accurate kickers come in there. Campbell being one of them, and giving us that little bit of edge. You know, you got 11 guys on the field, but if you're going up against an FCS, you gotta or FBS rather, you gotta have just that little bit of edge. You know, and that comes in with the special teams and the sound mistake-free football. Yeah.
The Citadel's freshman kicker, Colby Kintner, did a great job hitting his first 2 field goals. He banged one off the post, so he was 2 of 3. One issue that Citadel did have is on kickoffs. They chose to kick the ball short each time. And let me look at my drive chart here. 3 kickoffs, and USF got the ball at the 39, the 25, and the 35 on those kickoffs, which is not terrible. It's not ideal, but it's not terrible either. So we'll see if they go with that strategy of kicking short against Clemson as well. I don't know why they did it. Maybe the idea is not give South Florida a chance to use their speed and break off a big return. And of course, Clemson is even faster than South Florida. So we'll see. But some fans noticed that they were kicking short on the kickoffs. I don't think it hurt them that much, but we'll see if they stick with that strategy. Maybe they don't have a kicker that can consistently get it into the end zone. Yeah. So that's why they chose to do that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. And the way that South Florida played the option, they definitely did their homework. So, you got to take your hat off to South Florida for that. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it was, again, Jeff Scott's debut as a head coach of USF, and all in all, he did what he had to do as a head coach and pulled out the victory for USF in that victory. 27-6, the Citadel loses in this first game, a game they actually got to fly down. I know that had to be exciting for all the Bulldog players. In fact, Jeff, I'm going to unscientifically just make a bold statement. I do believe it's been all the way since they played the Arizona Wildcats since the last time the Citadel has got on an airplane and gone anywhere. Does that sound about right to you?
It does sound about right, because after that trip, they decided they wanted to stick closer to home and not spend the money to make those flights. But this on this occasion, the kickoff was originally at 1, and they were going to bus down. They changed it to 7, and when that happened, they decided to fly down so they could get back to Charleston sooner. And of course, when they play at Army on October 10th, I would expect they fly up to New York for that game as well.
This is the Citadel Gray Line, and we have Jeff Hartsell of the Charleston Post and Courier on with us. We also have from the class of 1997, Derek Thomas, a former Bulldog co-captain, and we want to let you know that Citadel Gray Line is powered by IPS Packaging and Automation. It is a name you can trust, IPS Packaging and Automation. Since way back in 1976, IPS Packaging has been providing manufacturers and e-commerce companies with the very best packaging products and automation in the entire industry. IPS offers a complete line of packaging products, from stretch films and 3M tapes to corrugated boxes, strapping, and automation. IPS Packaging and Automation will analyze and streamline your current methods to improve your packaging process. Call 1-800-277-7007 to learn more, or visit IPAC at ipac.com. IPS Packaging and Automation, a proud supporter of Citadel Athletics. And something tells me that the sort of boss man there of IPS Packaging and Automation is a guy named Derek Murdoch, and we have to ask our Derek's Thomas. I think Derek was in school with you somewhere along that same timeline in the late 90s. Does the name Derek Murdoch sound familiar to you, Derek's Thomas?
It does sound familiar. It's been a long time, so I gotta dig into my yearbook and look at a lot of those old photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
But more importantly, Derek Murdoch evidently didn't yell at you at some point during your cadet days. Although I don't think that would be a smart thing to do based on what I've seen.
Well, if he's an upperclassman, I'm pretty sure I would know who would remember him, because I'm sure I got chastised a lot by those older guys.
Speaking of the old days, as you said, you played in the Charlie Taft and Don Powers era at the Citadel. Let me pull up an old photo that you sent to me, and I thank you for doing this. This is talking about the Citadel losing to South Florida. It was back in the 1996 season, Derek, that you suited up and played the Miami Hurricanes. And I was looking this up last night. That was around 50-something to 6 loss for the Citadel there at the old Orange Bowl. And believe it or not, that was the first time the Citadel and the U had ever played football since 1950. It was almost, 50 years that they went, and I know this had to be memorable for you.
Yeah, it was definitely memorable. It was a great time. When you're in high school and you're trying to be the best athlete you can be. You're looking up to a lot of these bigger FBS programs. So it's good to get in there in the Lion's Den and fly around a bit. So that was a wonderful memory. Absolutely.
Again, that was in 1996. How did you do in that game?
I did pretty good. I was an alternate to my close friend Adrian Luster. I had moved over from defensive end and was brought in to the defensive tackles. I was undersized. I was 240 pounds. But I got in there, played 20 snaps, had 6 tackles, if I'm not mistaken. One of them was a tackle for a loss. But those dudes were so huge, I don't think Coach Salazar wanted me out there the entire game. So, but I did what I had to do. I was kind of like the mercenary. They put me in on a lot of stunts, blitzes, things of that nature because of my mobility, and I'd like to think my tenaciousness. So.
That's what we like. Hey, if you have a question or comment, you want to talk to Derek's, 843-779-8496 is how you can catch us here at the Citadel Gray Line. And Derek's, I want to make you envious since you're this up-and-coming actor. We all need to keep your eye. I still got something. I'm not sure if you got one of these, but I just happened to pull this off the shelf after seeing that photo of you sitting up against the Miami Hurricanes. Look at there.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
You got one of these?
You know what? I had one. I had the original one. I think it's in my mom's old basement. I don't have it. I need to get it. But I miss it. Yeah.
I love
that's
this
a
helmet.
little one though.
It is. It's a little miniature. And they used to sell these at a few places. I love it. I love this helmet. And speaking of uniforms, stick around because, Jeff, you asked a very important question this week at Brent Thompson's virtual press conference, and we're going to let Coach Thompson answer that question in just a few minutes. But yes, uniforms and more right here at the Citadel Gray Line.
I hope your audio recording reflects the irritation of Coach Brent Thompson when I asked him that question.
It definitely does. And
I'll
have something to say about that in a second, Jeff. Derek's again played in the late 90s. One of your co-captains of those Citadel football teams was Maurice Drayton, the special teams coach of the Green Bay Packers, and congratulations to the Packers with an impressive Week 1 victory in the NFL. I didn't see the Buffalo Bills statistics, Jeff. How did Andre Roberts do in Week 1?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen them either.
Hey, what were you doing? Hanging out at the beach or something?
Exactly. Andre had an interesting offseason. You know, he was cut by the Bills, then re-signed. They were planning to re-sign him when they cut him, and then he was named a co-captain of the team. So what a great career Andre's had. Over 10 years now, I think, in the league, and just fantastic the way he's been able to adapt and become now one of the great returners in the league. So good stuff from Andre. And, of course, he's always giving back to his high school alma mater, Spring Valley in Columbia, and to the Citadel as well. So and always mentions and talks up the Citadel in his interviews and the lessons he learned there. So just an unbelievable career for Andre.
Derek, did you have a chance to take your playing to the next level?
You know what? I would have loved to, but as I'd say a 6'1" defensive lineman that weighs 240 pounds, I think I gave everything I had during that season. When I was in high school, I wanted to play pro. I wanted to do a lot of things. So I had to transition from defensive line in high school to middle linebacker, which I had never played before. So that's why I've got that ugly 47. Being a defensive lineman, I'm wearing number 47. But the transition was a little difficult. And in college, if you're not making a tackle like on that first series, you know, they're already looking for another place to put you. And the competition is really that steep just on our squad alone. So, no, I never got the chance to make it. But that senior year, I played just as well, if not better than anybody else in the conference. And Dave Salazar told me that. My teammates told me that. And a lot of those opponents on the other side of the football told me that. So that's the only thing I needed to know.
And again, as we mentioned, you were kind of in a transition period. You started out under Charlie Taft, and then after the Taft dismissal there at the Citadel, Don Powers took over, and you were there for both of those regimes. A lot of transition going on in the South Carolina Corps of Cadets at that time. So if you don't mind, just kind of fill us in on what all, remind us really of what all was going on as a cadet and a football player at that time period.
Wow. I mean, it was a lot of transition. The Citadel going from all male to co-ed. For me, I wanted to play football. I wanted to get a great education. When I was in high school in 1993, I think the Citadel squad, that 92 season, had got up to number 1 in the country, had knocked down some of the giants that were Division 1A. And the school graduated 92% of its athletes, I think, at that time, which is almost unheard of. So that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to play great football and wanted to graduate with my degree. So when I got down there, coming from Maryland, it gets hot, but Charleston heat is just a whole another thing. So that first year was just a lot of sweating, a lot of falling out, a lot of trying to get used to the knob culture 4-class system. And Coach Taft was amazing. He was an amazing guy. Rest in peace. He was the one who put us on the map. He solidified that option as far as the offense is concerned. And we had a really solid group of guys. We had a really solid group of coaches. When that transition went over from Coach Taft to Don Powers, we just kept it moving. The one thing that we always told ourselves is to play for team, play for family. So, that's one thing that stayed consistent throughout my time there. Yeah.
Well, you know what, Derek, if not for that Charleston heat and the no-see-ums and more, if you hadn't endured all that in the 1990s, then we wouldn't have this.
Yes.
Right there. and we wouldn't have this. See?
Those are some glamour shots.
I guess so. I had to borrow that jacket from somebody. They said, "Hey, you need some texture in the photo." So I put that jacket on. It was probably a little 3 or 4 sizes too small, but when you're an actor, you got to do what you can to get the look right. So,
and we're going to talk to you a little bit more about your acting career. In fact, I've got some video that we're going to play, and just a little programming note: if you've got little ones around, you might want to cover the ears when we play that little clip here in just a minute, because we're going to learn more. We're going to take you away from the gridiron and to the stage and learn more about this. And we haven't even mentioned this yet: a Harvard-trained actor.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah, it would be you. So not too many times, at least not that I'm aware of, have Citadel alums also become Harvard alums, and we'll have a little information about that and how you were involved in the theater training there in Cambridge, as well as what you're doing now in the Northeast acting-wise.
Absolutely.
Let's talk
one
about.
Thing
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, just to add to what you were talking about, one thing I will say is that if you make it out the Citadel, you can practically do anything. There's nothing that can really stop you but yourself. You develop so much confidence. You develop so many leadership skills. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for my time there, and everything that I do has been informed and shaped by my experience at the Citadel. So yeah. You can do anything. You graduate from the Citadel, you can do anything, man.
Very well put. I completely agree. Derek Thomas is with us here. Jeff Hartsell of the Charleston Post and Courier also with us, as the Citadel, football-wise, moves from losing this first game of the year to South Florida. Now they're going to take their road trip a little bit closer to home. They'll go up I-26 to Death Valley Memorial Stadium, Clemson, South Carolina. It'll be an afternoon kick against the #1 Clemson Tigers. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and company are awaiting the Citadel Bulldogs for this ACC network game. I call this, Jeff, the Hartsell Bowl. It's Jeff versus his daddy.
That is correct. My dad, a Clemson grad and a loyal Clemson fan. Actually, he and my mom have given up their season tickets this year. So I think the COVID and everything had a lot to do with that. They are 85 and 80 years old, respectively. So they're going to be on the couch. And my dad's been talking about getting a new TV, 70 inches or so. So they'll be watching from their home there in Clemson. So, this is the only original game left on the Citadel schedule from the original 11. So after the SoCon dropped and other teams like Elon and Charleston Southern dropped football for this fall, Clemson game was the only original game left. And, of course, that one was touch and go for several months there during the summer as everybody figured out how football was going to look this fall. But Citadel ended up being able to keep it on the schedule. The game is worth $450,000 to the Citadel in payout, and that number is going to remain the same, even though there's only going to be about 19,000 fans at Memorial Stadium for the game. So that's a big deal for the budget at the Citadel athletic department. But as we talked about last week, all this guarantee money they're making this year from South Florida, Clemson, and Army is going to go fast, because like they had to charter that flight to South Florida. They have to pay for 3 COVID tests per week for the entire football program, not just players, but staff and equipment managers and all that stuff. So that money will go fast, but on the other hand, it may keep them from having to drop a sport, sometime soon, as we've seen at many other schools. And the Citadel is determined not to have to do that in the face of this COVID. And if they can make it through this academic year without having to do that, maybe they'll be good in the long run. So this is an important game for the Citadel, other than just football implications. But of course, anytime you play the number 1 team in the nation, that's an exciting day for players at the Citadel and other FCS schools. This will be the 3rd number 1 team Brent Thompson has faced since he came to the Citadel. They played Florida State when they were number 1, and they had Jameis Winston at quarterback in 2014. They played Alabama and Tua in 2018, and now they're playing Clemson and Trevor Lawrence. So pretty good lineup of number 1 teams the Citadel has faced. And in those 2 games, Florida State, they lost 37-12, but they were able to run the ball pretty effectively. I think they had 20 first downs, something like that. And then against Alabama, of course, 10-10 tie at halftime. So they've had a little bit to hang their hat on in both those games. But when they played Clemson recently, there's not been that way. I think it's been 62-3 and 52-6 the last 2 times they played Clemson. So we'll see if they can find something to hang their hat on this week against the Clemson team that hasn't lost a step. In fact, they might be even better than the Tiger teams of the last few years.
Okay, Jeff, we noticed this week at Brent Thompson's press conference there were a lot of people on the line, as this is a big matchup within the Palmetto State between Clemson and those Citadel Bulldogs. And you asked Coach Brent Thompson several questions, which we're very gracious that the coach took time to answer all the questions. But you asked him a question that a lot of people, at least online, were saying, why are we not wearing a C on the Citadel football helmet? Well, Brent Thompson, during his press conference here this week, you asked that question of the coach of the Bulldogs. I thought it was a pretty good question. I'll weigh in with my thoughts on this, and maybe we'll get Derek Thomas's thoughts on this, because I know fashion is important to Derek's. And let's go in and now hear what Coach Thompson said this week at his press conference after you asked him that big question about why the Citadel football team, well, they look like a team from 1900 out there without any kind of logo on the side of the helmet.
I know coaches love uniform questions. There's no C on the helmet this year. What was that decision? Were you involved? Why did they go that way?
This is one of those questions. It's we need to put things into perspective a little bit. The uniform hasn't changed yet. There was no C on the helmet, and there's a lot of reasons why there may not have been a C on that helmet. One of them you got to think about. You got to change out 120 decals every single week. You're traveling on a Thursday. You're getting a game time on a Sunday. We had that game time just scheduled for a 1:00 game. It went to a 7:00 game. We had to throw together a travel itinerary. So yeah, some of it has to do with maybe some expense, maybe some cost of it. I may want to spend $3,000 or $4,000 someplace else in my budget. I may not want to overwork my overworked equipment staff some more. Maybe I really just want to focus on what really the important things are. And nobody asked me about the sticker on the back of the helmet for Rashad Graham, something that's extremely important to me. And those are things that I really want to focus on. Not so much what's on the side of the helmet, but what's underneath the helmet, those kids. Maybe I'm an anti-swag guy. There's a lot of different reasons there. But the main reason is that we are playing football, and really that shouldn't be of a huge concern to us.
Well, I was going to ask if there was something on the helmet for Rashad.
Yeah, on the back of the helmet, there's an RG back there with the FCS or the Fellowship of Christian Athletes back there. I thought that was important to get on the helmet for Rashad.
All right, very good response from Coach Brent Thompson. And as I said, I think it was a pretty darn good question. In fact, Jeff, I thought you were kind of teeing the coach up to give a good answer. I thought the Citadel intentionally didn't have the C on the helmet because this is, let's be honest, an unusual season, a season that in some ways it really doesn't even count, and therefore I thought that might be part of the decision-making of going naked against the South Florida Bulls. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, as I said, coaches love uniform questions. There's no question about that. They love to talk about what's on the uniform. But as you mentioned, people were wondering on national TV why there was no C on the side to kind of, or no Bulldogs on the jersey to kind of let people know who was playing on national TV. And there hasn't been a Bulldogs on the jersey for a couple years now. So that's nothing new. The C on the helmet, I don't know when the last time there wasn't something on the helmet. You showed the helmet from Derek's days that said the Citadel on the side, and in the last few years there's been a block C on the side, and I thought since people were wondering I would take the bullet and ask Coach Thompson.
Yeah, people are wondering. In fact, we got a question from Christian Marquez. Jeff, did you feel that the Coach Thompson was irritated by all of the social media backlash due to the helmets?
Well, you saw his answer. Do you think he was irritated?
Yeah, but he gave a great answer to his credit, and more importantly, he talked about Rashad Graham.
Right, and I think he was irritated by what is not, in the end, an important issue. And he did mention Rashad Graham, who they acknowledged with a sticker on the back of their helmet. And for people who don't know, Rashad is a Citadel grad who was the FCA campus minister and team chaplain, and more important, just a great mentor and friend to all Citadel athletes and to a lot of Citadel cadets who weren't athletes. He drowned in a tragic accident last spring in Berkeley County, and his absence was felt, this summer. There's no question about it. As Citadel players dealt with COVID, should I play? Should I not play? And then all the issues of social justice that arose this summer that affected athletes on campuses all across the country. So Rashad's presence was definitely missed this summer, and it's great to see that they're acknowledging him on the back of their helmet. And I think Brent's points about how uncertain things are, they were planning to travel on Thursday, right, to go down to Tampa. Mm-hmm. And then they changed the kickoff, and now they're traveling Friday night. So, taking the time to put 120 stickers on helmets, or 60 or ever how many was going to be, for equipment staff that's already overworked, I guess he decided that was not a priority. I don't know what the plan is for the rest of the season. They might stick with the plain white helmet, or they might decide to put the C back on there. We'll just have to see.
Kevin Yeager, where are you when we need you most? Because he's the guy that I give credit to for. I think he created the best looking helmet I've seen in a long time at Citadel. Oddly enough, it was against Clemson at the end of 2014, somewhere along that line, when he put the South Carolina logo, the outline of the state, on the side of the helmet, and had a silver looking face mask and board. We've actually not really seen that design since, although the Citadel outline logo has now officially become the #1 identity for the athletic program. So Yeager, get to work.
No. I'll tell you where Kevin Yeager is. He's working his butt off.
Okay.
So,
I agree. If you don't believe that,
it's not an issue of the Kevin Yeager and his staff not wanting to do the work. I guarantee you that.
I was kidding on that. I meant intellectually, creatively, because I'm not so sure it was him, but it probably was, because he's pretty good at. In fact, he left the Citadel to go work for the helmet company. Enough about uniforms and such. We got Derek Thomas on. If you've got a question for Derek's, if you have a question about Citadel football or more, we got Jeff Hartsell of the Post and Courier at Jeff_ from the PC is how you can get in touch with him. If you don't mind, we have a few more questions coming in. Either one of you gentlemen, feel free to answer these questions. And one question coming from Gregory Copland. Is there any shot we start seeing Rainey in a shotgun formation this season?
They worked on that in the spring and in the off season, and we did not see it against South Florida. I don't know if they'll start experimenting against Clemson, they might stick with what they know. But maybe later on against Eastern Kentucky and Army, we might see some of that. But, they did work on it during the spring.
And Derek, who was the quarterback during your era in the 90s at the Citadel?
Stanley Myers. Yeah, Stanley Myers was our guy. We had a few. We had C.J. Haynes early on in my freshman sophomore year, but Stanley was the guy. Once he got that spot, he held on to it. Yeah.
And the Citadel with a somewhat similar offense. Did Stanley get in the shotgun formation a fair amount?
No. we were as wishbone can get back in the day. Yeah. So no shotguns. Yeah.
All right.
I remember one game. I don't know if Derek's played in this game at Furman. Didn't Stanley go 16 of 17 or something like that at Furman one year?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if that might have been the year after I left or if it were the year before. But yeah, Stanley was a great passer too. He was a great passer too.
Stanley Myers, of course, former Bulldog quarterback, now a member of the Board of Visitors.
Yes.
Not bad. And we got another impressive Citadel football alum.
Well.
Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned that too. Yes, but we got an actor on with us, and I promise you, we're going to play a clip of Derek's in just a second of him doing his acting thing. You'll want to make sure you stay tuned for that. We got another question coming in. This comes to us courtesy of Adam Alexander Alley. With all the youth in the backfield, does the future look bright when it comes to the A-backs and B-backs?
Well, that's a good question. I think Keith White, who started at one of the slot back positions, definitely is a player with a lot of promise. He did some good things against South Florida. If the Citadels plays in the spring, do people like Alex Ramsey and Dante Smith and Nakim Njoku, do they come back in the spring? If they do, I think the future is very bright. Those are, Alex Ramsey is an All-America running back at VMI. Dante Smith is the player who slashed Alabama for 140-something yards and 2 touchdowns a couple years ago. So if those guys come back in the spring, and from what I hear, the SoCon is getting close to announcing a spring plan, and I am okay.
Yes.
For football, probably not going to be 8 games, maybe 6 is what I hear in the spring. So all those guys will have decisions to make about whether they come back in the spring. So yeah.
And let's remind people, if you didn't listen to the press conference with Brent Thompson this week, you missed out if you weren't paying close enough attention during the game at USF. The Citadel was really, 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 I don't know how many reallys I could use here, shorthanded when it came to the backfield because of people opting out for COVID and more. Then Harris went out with an injury early in the game. They were having guys who had just moved over from defense in the backfield and more, and I think that really was apparent how obvious it was for the Citadel to move offensively in this USF game.
They started a converted linebacker at fullback and a converted quarterback at slot back, along with Keith White. So, shorthanded to say the least.
All right, another question or comment coming in from Gregory Copland. All the alumni getting mad about No C, claiming it was a missed opportunity to brand us, must realize there were no fans, and if someone can't read the Citadel on the screen, maybe it isn't the person we want to attract to our school.
I'll let that one go without comment.
Yes, okay, very good. All right, we are getting ready to take on Clemson. We want to learn more about this matchup. We also want to learn more about Derek Thomas from the Citadel class of 1997. He's an actor. We've been telling you about that. We want to see him in action here in just a moment. But let's first bring on this week's installment of Knob Knowledge. And you can participate in our Knob Knowledge by texting the answer to this trivia question to 843-779-8496, 843-779-8496. How did you do at Knob Knowledge in your day, Derek's?
Well, when I was a knob, I was excellent. I think over the years, maybe you don't get asked too many questions or get asked to brace too often. So yeah, I'm a little dusty, but I'm willing to play the game.
All right. Well, don't shout this answer out if you know it when I'm about to ask the question. I I bet you're a smart guy. You might know the answer to this one. And I'm gonna tell people what the trivia question is. We're gonna go way back now in Citadel football history and text your answer. Don't Google it, y'all. If you know the answer, play fairly. We want you to you just let us know the answer, but you can't cheat. All right. So, when and where was the last time the Citadel defeated the Clemson Tigers? In fact, they were Clemson College back in the time period that the last defeated Clemson. And I want to know when and where. Was it at Johnson Haygood Stadium? Was it at Death Valley or the old Riggs Field? Does that sound right, Jeff?
Riggs Field? That sounds right.
Yeah, because I've got some Clemson blood in my family, and they named one of their canines one time Riggs after the original Clemson football field. And so was it there? Was it maybe at Orangeburg at the old fairgrounds there? Tell us when and where, what year, and the location for the Citadel's last victory over the Clemson Tigers, and do not cheat. And I'll fill you in just a second when we got the right answer texted to us about how important that loss was to Clemson fans. Yeah, it was great for the Citadel to win, but boy, it ticked Clemson off so bad they did something about it when they lost to the lowly Military College of South Carolina in their eyes, as they call the Citadel that dude school. And I'll give you the answer to that in just a second. So text us your answer. We're looking forward to it. And, of course, this trivia question, if you're the lucky recipient of the right answer, you win a $25 gift certificate to BigRedPalmetto.store. We want to thank Richard Blanton from the Citadel class of 1975. We had a trivia question answered last week. We've already got that lucky winner, something being shipped to them in the mail. And you can be the latest winner of our Knob Knowledge trivia question if you can answer that trivia question. 843-779-8496 and get your gift certificate from BigRedPalmetto.store. And we are talking about Citadel football and more here on the Gray Line, and it's great to have you, as this, again, is our 13th season of covering everything at the Military College of South Carolina, as the Citadel this week tries to rebound from the loss to South Florida, and they've got a real easy task. All they have to do is go play Trevor Lawrence and company at Clemson, and Clemson just happens to be the number one team in college football, by the way. And so, Jeff, I know you don't want to spend an hour breaking this game down, but we have a 0.1% chance of winning this ball game against Clemson. What's Jeff Hartsell's take on this matchup here at Death Valley?
I wouldn't bet on that 0.1%. I don't like those odds.
Come on.
So, if Clemson will win, the line is 45 or 48, something like that. If the Citadel can keep it under that, if they can have a moment or a quarter or a half like they did at Alabama, that would be something to hang their hat on, and they can escape Death Valley with their dignity intact. If it ends up like when Clemson played South Carolina State a couple of years ago and they kept the clock running for the entire fourth quarter, that will be a different story. But this is a mismatch even if the Citadel's at full strength. With the situation the Citadel's in now, it's an even tougher ask. But it's one that, the Citadel doesn't want to shrink from. They want to accept the challenge and go out there, as Derek said, and do the best they can and see if they can come up with something to hang their hat on and make some memories for Citadel players like Willie Eubanks and Raleigh Webb, who have the receiver, who have aspirations of playing at the next level. This is a big showcase game. You remember Andre Roberts, when he played against Clemson, he had a great day against Clemson. They could not cover him in the first half. And I don't remember his stats, but I think it was 8 catches, 140-something yards, and a couple of touchdowns. That really made a big difference for Andre in his pursuit of an NFL opportunity. And if Willie and Raleigh can have a game like that or a moment like that against Clemson, it could help them in their pursuit as well.
Derek Thomas, what did the Citadel Bulldogs need to do to come away with the big shocker here this weekend?
I mean, I agree totally with Jeff. Ball control. Don't turn over. I mean, literally, if they can play a game and not turn over the ball, I would consider that a win. Because that's important going forward. From every game to the end of the season. So if they can go out there, not turn over the ball, maybe just convert some third downs. I would consider that a victory. And if those guys go out there and play with their hearts, guys like Willie Eubanks can go out there and set a platform for themselves, and everybody else can go out there and get some memories and some reps where they can get that confidence and they can beat their chest feeling that they put it all on the line. That's the victory. That's the victory.
Hey, we still don't have a trivia question answer, so let me repeat it. And don't Google, but maybe you need to Google if we don't have an answer. I want to know the year and location of the last time the Citadel defeated the Clemson Tigers, and sadly, it's been a while. Now, the good news is that other big college in the state of South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, well, they've lost to the Citadel 2 out of the last 3 times, most recently in the 2015 season. So, unfortunately, Clemson, it's been a little bit longer since the Citadel prevailed against the Clemson Tigers. And again, if you know the year and location of the last Citadel win, hit us up here at our number.
As a little hint, if you look at the big picture, it's the Citadel's fault that Clemson is as good as it is.
You're right
now.
And we'll talk about that.
If you look at the big picture.
Yes, that's why we'll fill what Jeff's saying here in a minute. If you know the answer to that trivia question, 843-779-8496. Text that number, and you'll get a $25 gift certificate courtesy of BigRedPalmetto.store. Again, callers are standing by, or operators standing by, 843-779-8496. All right, Jeff, I want to talk to Derek about his acting gig. Anything else Citadel sports-wise we need to get from you before we move over to acting talk?
I don't think so, but I wanted to ask Derek, did you act during your days at the Citadel?
No.
And what got you into acting?
Oddly enough, I graduated from the Citadel, and my first job was with Ford Motor. So it was me and a few other Citadel guys. We had gotten jobs from Ford Motor, and we went down to Florida. And we're working down there for 4 years. And I was doing okay, doing great, all things considered, but something wasn't really satisfying. And unfortunately, I had a loss in my family. I lost my father during that time. So I padded up the wagon and brought my tail back up to the D.C. area where I was selling real estate and still using my business degree, so to speak. And this was just before the bust, so to speak. And the guy who was training us in our sales was saying, take an improv class, take an acting class. It'll free you up in your communications. And wow. I did. And I started making a lot more sales. And then I realized that in the classes that I was taking, people were responding to me in a way that was good, but I wasn't expecting it. And then before I knew it, it freed me up so much that I never went back to my real estate office.
Wow.
So
that's a great story.
That's how I've been on this journey for about 15 years now. And I've dedicated myself to it. And when you find your purpose, you find that one thing that gets your motor revved. Any obstacle is surmountable. And a funny thing is that after my playing days, you lose that community, you lose that group of guys that you went to war with, so to speak. And I couldn't find that thing. I went for a while, for several years, and I couldn't find that thing. And then when I got into an acting class, I realized that was that thing. You rehearse your play or your script. You rehearse your plays in the football field. Every play is designed to go a certain way, but then you have to be able to improvise. So there was this thing about using my body, using my mind, using my spirit, and then going into this kind of flow state. And I was able to find that, ironically enough, in football, and I was able to locate it in the theater just by happenstance. And ever since then, it's just been, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but certainly an open road for me to keep discovering. So, yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier in the show, as we are wrapping up this episode of Citadel Gray Line with our class of 1997 member, Derek Thomas, you, after you went back to the D.C. area, ultimately decided to put your mind back to work in the classroom, and you went to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and you became educated there around Harvard University. Tell me about that decision, and then how you went from the Cambridge area to the stage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when I got to a certain point, I said, this is what I want to do. And how can I give myself the best advantage? So I did as much research as I could. I went crazy on the internet and found the premier programs. And at the time, I didn't have a whole lot of money. So I had to pay for these applications. And I applied to Yale School of Drama. I applied to NYU, which has a very, very strong theater and media degree program. And I applied to the American Repertory Theater at Harvard University. Lucky enough, I got into two, and I chose the program at Harvard. It isn't an academic program; it's an arts program, so the entry is a little bit different. But the individual that would be accepted at that program is someone who has to have a tremendous, I would say, not to, congratulate myself, but some sort of ability. That you have to have some ability. And I would say for an actor, it's important to have lived a life, because your life finds a way to bring realization to the work that you're performing. So that's what I did, and I got in, and met a lot of great people in the theater world as well as the television world. Got some sound advice. One of the guys who graduated from our program, I wasn't there at the time, but he graduated a few years prior, was Jonathan Bernthal, who plays the Punisher, and was in The Walking Dead. Another actor who went to the program was Steve Zahn, who's done a lot of comedy. So those are the guys that I was able to look up to, as well as like Katori Hall, who's a Broadway playwright. She's amazing. Susan Laurie Parks. Lots of folks came into the theater performing, like David Allen Greer when they did a revamp of Porgy and Bess. So seeing a lot of these creative people, like being able to do it and acknowledging the fact that you've got some gift to do it as well is I don't know. It's the one thing that keeps me moving, and it's the one thing that makes me encouraged. So,
Derek, did you have to audition to get into the Harvard program?
Yeah, we had to audition to get into the Harvard program, and I don't know what the statistics are, but it's like, maybe 1 in 5,000 people might get into the program, for whatever that means. But it was pretty arduous. I had to present a monologue, a Shakespeare monologue, two contrasting Shakespeare monologues, 2 contemporary play monologues, and I had to sing a song. And I put it all on the line, and the rest is history. I wanted to go to a master's program because at the end of the day, if the stage doesn't work out, if television doesn't work out, I can always teach at the college or university level. And I thought that would be if it never worked out, I could always teach. So so that was my commitment that I wanted to make to myself.
Did you grow up with Shakespeare at all? You had to take a crash course in this stuff.
You know what? Life has been my crash course. Life and the Citadel has prepared me for life. I'd say that. I come from a working class family, 2 hardworking, honest parents from South Carolina who moved to the D.C. area like a lot of African-American families in the 60s to try to find some opportunities for themselves. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, and a lot of the guys in my neighborhood played football, so I had an opportunity to look up at them. There's a gentleman named Paul Palmer who played for Temple, who was a Heisman runner-up with Testaverde and the Boz that year. And it was a lot of guys in my neighborhood played ball, pro ball or college ball, and I thought that was my opportunity. So then when the Citadel came, they bought me a plane ticket, told me to come on down to Charleston. It was the first time I'd ever been on an airplane before, and that's when my life started to change. That's about it. It's still evolving. When you go off to college, you hopefully run into different people who have a different understanding of the world, and you share those views, and it just makes the world that much more expansive. Oddly enough, when I was doing research, because I was taking the improv classes, I wanted to know what theater training was like, because there's some people who look down on theater from the improv world, there's some people look down on improv from the theater world. And I tried to trick myself, like, hey, I don't want to be an actor. I just want to see if I can make my improv better. And as I did my study, I found out that all these great actors that I looked up to were theater trained, like Denzel and Samuel Jackson and Brando and Pacino and Newman and you name it. So I was like, I felt a little more confident about stepping into that theater world. And then as I did more research, I realized that, ironically enough, a lot of athletes have made the transition into the performing arts. And I think there's some sort of connection between, having a kinesthetic awareness, having an awareness outside of yourself, being able to slow things down, to observe, to take in communication with your eyes and with your ears. I think all those are things that you kind of take for granted when you're playing sport, but you're training and you're sharpening those things. I think when people can go from the sport to the stage, I think there's a lot that athletes can lend to that. Yeah, I just leave it like that. It's just a beautiful thing when you can go from the sport to the art and get that same kind of um, inspiration, I guess.
We're
Did you
talking
share any
with
time?
Derek. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just have one more question. Did you
Okay.
share any time with Morris Robinson at the Citadel?
No, I did not. I just missed him. I missed him. I
Okay.
think I missed him by 2 years. Obviously, his reputation preceded itself. I certainly knew how great of a football player he was when I got there, and I knew that he had this tremendous talent and gift that was a little bit different from what a lot of our graduates get into. So I've looked up to him. I've tried to reach out to him a few times on Facebook. I know he's like traveling the globe, singing opera and spending time with his family in Atlanta. But it would be nice to talk to him someday and chop it up and share our experiences. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
We're learning that the Citadel, yes, we can put you in the NFL, but Citadel football, where the artisans go to college.
Yes.
I love it. I
There's an
love it.
art. There's an art to everything, man. There's an
That's
art to
right.
everything.
So don't pick on those football players. Those guys could be the next hit makers or artists, or we are looking closely at what's going on with Derek Thomas here. In fact, we're going to let you see a clip of Derek's at work here in just a second. But one more time before we go to that clip, and I want to let you know we still don't have a correct answer on our Citadel Gray Line Knob Knowledge presented by BigRedPalmetto.store. That Gray Line question here for you. If you have the correct answer, text us at 843-779-8496. The question is, name the year and location of the last time the Citadel prevailed over those awful Clemson Tigers. And if you can tell us the year and location, you get a $25 gift certificate to BigRedPalmetto.store. And Derek, you need to go on there if you haven't to that website. They got some awesome stuff. In fact, next week, I'm going to be modeling some of the items available, more than 300 items at Big Red Palmetto Store. And I got some of that stuff coming to me right now. One of the neat things about them, they give you the shipping updates. And I've got three things that are going to be arriving here later today. I wish they'd have already been here. I've been showing them off today. But yes, Big Red Palmetto Store is where you could go. And if you have the answer to that trivia question, text us here at 843-779-8496. What year and location was the last time the Citadel defeated the Clemson Tigers? All right. Let's move on now to see Derek Thomas hard at work. And if you got little ones around ears, because there's some Citadel-esque verbiage that you're going to hear here in this clip here of Derek's. And he's a guy that looks right out of a crime show on TV when you see this clip. Enjoy it now from the class of 1997, former Citadel football team captain Derek Thomas here, an example of his repertoire.
Like any young man, I wanted to be hard too, so I'd show up at all the house parties where all the tough boys hung. Shit, they knew I wasn't one of them. Some of them hard cases would come up to me and say, "Go home, schoolboy, you don't belong here." I didn't realize at the time what they were doing for me, but now I see. As rough as that neighborhood could be, we had us a community. No body or victim that didn't matter. But now all we got is bodies and predatory motherfuckers like you killing this community. All this death, you don't think it ripples out? I forgot you can't speak on it.
All right. What say you there, Dirks?
Yeah, that was something that we did in one of my programs that I was studying in, and a component was on-camera screen acting. So we had to work on certain monologues from a scene. That one in particular was a scene from The Wire by David Simon, who's a prolific producer, who's actually from my area of town, who I need to write and reach out to from the D.C. area. So that was just a scene that I put out there to create a little buzz, get people to take a little notice. So hopefully there'll be much more of that.
Eric, you need to be on SVU.
Yeah, man. I need to get in touch with my buddy Danny McBride down there in Charleston. That guy's amazing, man. Eastbound and Down, and the Mighty Gemstones, and Vice Principals. I know I've been watching that show on HBO, and I look at some of the environment like, is that the Citadel Mall? Is that?
It is.
Yeah, it is. I watched one of the episodes of the Mighty Gemstones, and they said something about the Citadel Mall, and I just fell out laughing. It was hilarious.
That's where his whole studio is at, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. I need
So,
to knock on his door or something, right?
Well, I was very impressed. That was good stuff.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Although you cussed, I do want to thank you for not getting naked in that scene.
Yeah, I'll keep that for the wife,
Yeah. I do want to ask you, you talked about the Citadel Mall. Going back to your days of thy youth, Derricks, did you ever ride the Knob shuttle to Citadel Mall?
I don't believe I ever did. No, I never rode the Knob shuttle. I didn't know we had a Knob shuttle to Citadel Mall. I remember we used to get on our 1-2s and walk on down to Burger Row. And tiptoe over there to College of Charleston to see if we could meet some new friends.
And how did that work out for you?
A little kinder and softer to us, but never got the Citadel train to Citadel Mall. No, the Knob train. No, I hadn't got that far yet.
I'm sure.
Let me ask,
go ahead.
Let me ask one more question of Derricks. What would you say is the highlight of your acting career so far?
The highlight of my acting career, I would say in performance, I would say being able to perform off Broadway, because that got me one step closer to the big prize, so to speak. And I was able to share the stage with Jason Ritter, who's John Ritter's son. So it was cool to talk to him about the industry. And he was an Emmy nominated actor in a show called Parenthood. But I would say it's the journey is never quite over, so I'm always looking for the next finish line. When I finished my program, I went to a showcase, and I was invited in LA to meet a few executives at Sony. So I would say sitting out in the lobby and looking at all the Emmys, and then being asked to sit down and have a conversation with the person who's producing all those Emmys was a good highlight. I just like to get back there and hopefully be one of the performers in one of those programs.
Well, let's get the coronavirus behind us and get these productions up and running.
That's what it is. That's what it is with the corona. If we can get this coronavirus behind us, and we can make this thing safe, we can, get the production back, and that would be a beautiful thing. I'm just waiting for my moment. You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, as they say. So
just like in football. That's
what it is, man. Every lesson I learned from the Citadel and on that football field is applicable to anything I've ever had to do. And I look at my experience through different eyes, because a lot of folks maybe haven't been an athlete or haven't played competitive sports. So, when I'm in there and I see people that I recognize from TV, and then I kind of, you might have those moments of doubt where you're like, why am I in this room with these people? I know these people. You realize that it's about setting your own standard and setting your own goals, and not being concerned about what anybody else is doing, but being focused, razor sharp focus about what you're doing, and making sure that you're doing it, being forthright, being earnest, and committing yourself to the right things. For me, it's not about ego. It's just that I literally love this thing. Maybe if I had a bigger ego, I'd probably be more well known. But I kind of learned that at the Citadel too. So it's just a matter of time and just a matter of patience. So
Well, work on blowing up that ego.
working on blowing up that ego and getting rid of this corona virus.
We're doing our part to make you famous here with the Citadel Gray Line. Derek, thank you again for coming on. I'm not going to let you off the hook quite yet. As we wrap up with you, I want you to go ahead mentally and be prepared to do this for us. The Citadel, it's David versus Goliath this week, Derek's. It's the Citadel at Clemson. I need you to go into acting mode in just a second and be that inspiration in the locker room. If you had a chance to address the Citadel football team before they run down the hill against Clemson here this weekend, I need you to give us your best acting of what the Citadel football players need to hear this weekend. Before
Remember
we do that,
the Titans, Derek.
Yeah.
Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to go widescreen so we get the whole effect here. If you need to start throwing stuff around the room, you got too many books there. I don't know if they're real. You're a Citadel grad. You shouldn't have that many books in the background.
Yeah.
I do want to say that it sounds like, Jeff, you might just be working on a story on Derek's for the Post and Courier. If you're not, you should. And if you do, hey, he's got some great high-res photos available for you to put on a nice feature story at the Post and Courier. And if you're not even writing a story, whoever you are, go to Derek'sThomas.com. That's the website. Derek's, what are the other social media connections people can follow you or learn more about your career?
Well, that's the main one. That's where all my materials are. You can see the footage. You can see my resume, my prior credits. I'm not the biggest Twitter guy, but I'm Derek's Thomas at Twitter as well. But the website is probably the best way to go. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well,
That
Jeff
covers
Hartsell.
everything.
Jeff Hartsell is all about Twitter at Jeff_ from the PC, the Citadel beat writer for the Post and Courier. We have a trivia winner. We finally got the winner here to answer the trivia question of the question is, what was the year and what was the location of the last time the Citadel defeated the Clemson Tigers on the gridiron? And we mentioned this fella earlier as he sent us a question that we answered or had Jeff answer. We want to congratulate Greg Coplin as he successfully answered the trivia question of the year and location of the last time the Citadel defeated the Clemson Tigers. And Greg lets us know the answer was in 1931, the Citadel beat Clemson for the last time, and that victory happened in Florence, South Carolina. It was a 6-0 win for the mighty Citadel Bulldogs there at Florence Memorial Stadium. And that season, the Citadel went 5-4-1 under Coach Red Floyd. Clemson, by the way, well, they just happened to be a pretty bad year for Clemson. I'm looking forward to the days they're back with this kind of record. 1-6-2 was the Clemson record of 1931, and the Citadel winning that game at Florence.
John,
yes.
What happened after that game?
I know the answer. Derek, you want to take a guess what happened after that victory for the Citadel?
I think I know, and I could be wrong. I was thinking myself 1932, but I didn't know if I was just throwing that number out in my head. They left the Southern Conference so they can start the ACC, so they can become part of the ACC.
Yes, that happened, but that's also the game where they decided they needed to form a fundraising organization,
Clemson,
which was known as Clemson, which is known as IPTAY, which is still around today, and which is probably the main reason the success of that organization is the main reason Clemson is what Clemson is today, was the support. And they were one of the first schools to establish a fundraising organization like that, IPTAY. And it used to stand for I pay 10 a year, maybe, or that's what they said it stood for. And Jess Neely was the Clemson coach, and they were so alarmed by losing to the Citadel, they said, we got to do something. And they formed IPTAY, which is still alive today and raises millions of dollars for Clemson athletics. So that game might have been the most consequential game in the state of South Carolina football history, because it led to Clemson forming IPTAY, which is the main reason Clemson is what it is today.
Well, I was trying to show people my technology's not working. Jeff, I'm going to cover you up for a second here. there is the Florence Morning News from back in 1931 talking about the upcoming Citadel-Clemson game at the PD Fair. The Citadel entered that game after a tie against the VMI Cadets that particular week, and that again ended up being a victory there for the Citadel Bulldogs in 1931. Florence Morning News Sports, 1931. Jeff, I'm looking for your byline there.
I couldn't make it to that game for some reason. I can't quite remember why.
Yeah, but that trivia question answered, again, courtesy of a very loyal viewer, Greg Copland. We've got a $25 gift certificate headed your way, Greg. Want to thank you for having a chance to win that, and of course being a part of our Citadel Gray Line show. We appreciate everybody that participates here. We've got that knob knowledge answered, and we got that $25 gift certificate to the Big Red Palmetto store headed your way. All right, Florence Morning News, we need you to go away. All right, there's Jeff Hartsell again. So there you have it. Let's try to correct this problem that's been going on since 1931 and beat Clemson here this week. Well, we've had an action-packed show. Can't thank everybody enough for being on. Again, it's the Citadel and the Clemson Tigers here this weekend. Got to give a shout-out to Kyler Estes' mother, Hope. She actually correctly guessed last week's trivia question, but she happened to fall a little bit late in the pecking order of the correct answer. So, Hope, thank you for watching us down in the Tallahassee area. Kyler, a great defensive player for the Citadel Bulldogs. We've got a lot of players, moms and parents and family that tune in to the Citadel Gray Line each week. So we appreciate all of you families out there who do what you do and support Citadel. For the Estes family alone, for example, last week, they're Floridians. I'm sure they would have loved to have gone and seen their son play there at Raymond James Stadium, and because of this coronavirus, they couldn't even go see their son play there for the Citadel, as all the parents are just having to endure. But there are going to be roughly, Jeff, less than 20,000 at Memorial Stadium this weekend?
About 19,000, and the Citadel traveling party, as it were, will get 2 tickets each. So basically the Citadel players will get 2 tickets each, so their parents or whoever from their family or friends can come to the game.
And so, this is a 4 Eastern kickoff from Death Valley on the ACC network.
That is correct.
All right. And also want to give a shout to Hope. Just sent us a nice comment here on Facebook. Thank you. We love watching. We appreciate the Citadel. Go Bulldogs. That from Hope Estes, and that again, the mother of one of our great Citadel football players. All right. Tell your son that he might want to have the coaching staff contact former Citadel football captain Derek Thomas sometime to come into that locker room and give him inspiration, maybe even before this weekend's game against the number 1 team in the country, the Clemson Tigers. And Derek's, we told you we want you to put on your best acting performance here. We got an Oscar waiting over here in the shadows. It might even look like the award this year. But we want you to inspire the Citadel football team with your performance of acting as we get ready to take on the number 1 Clemson Tigers. As we wrap up this week's Citadel Gray Line, Derek Thomas, class of 97, take it away.
Bulldogs, we've been around for a long time, okay? We're not going anywhere. Doesn't matter how tall they are, doesn't matter how big they are, how wide they are, or how much money they got. Unless they're giving it to us, of course, right? Check it out. We got to represent for everyone who's come before and everyone who will come after. The little C, the big C, doesn't matter. All they need to see is that you are made for the job, and you will go home with glory, with memories, and with confidence that can never be shaken. We're watching you. We love you. We care about you. And you will always be a part of the Citadel Gray Line. Bring it home, fellas. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Just bring it home. Go Dogs.
That's a way to end the show. Everybody, thanks for watching. Citadel@y'all.com is our email address if you have a question, comment, suggestion throughout the week. Thank you again to the class of 1997's Derek Thomas. Thanks to Jeff Hartsell. And good luck to the Citadel football team as they take on Clemson here this weekend. We'll be right back here next week to recap it and get you ready for more Citadel football information and more right here on Citadel Gray Line. Go Dogs.